This video is going to be a quick overview of how OneScript works. And I'm just going to go ahead and look at my source control. I have the Northwind project, and here's where all the front-end code is kept. And then I have Northwind DB for the database change scripts. As part of this process, developers will script out individual database change scripts, such as these. So each individual database change script goes into its own file. And then they are stored based on what type of database object the script changes or creates. So I have all my table scripts in the table folder and all my view scripts in the view folder and stored procedures, etc. And this is where OneScript comes in. I'm going to go ahead and launch it. It's a Windows program. I'm going to go ahead and show the Northwind project that was set up in advance. So this is the project, and to set one up, you just do this workflow at the top. And one of the steps is to connect to source control. So I'm going to go ahead and connect. And it went out and connected to our source control. And this is the parent of our database change scripts. And then the next step is where I give it a sort order. And I can copy those from source control. And I'm just putting the sort order next to the folder name so that it knows how we want the scripts to be sorted as a default. We also have the concept of injected SQL. Here you see I can have SQL injected at the beginning of the overall OneScript, before each file that gets injected, after each file that gets injected, and then of course at the end of the file. You also notice that there's a bunch of placeholders, and you'll see how this gets used when I go through the example of doing a build. So let's do that now. Let's just do a build. And I have one already made, and I'll just go ahead and edit that. And you see it has a command line, and I can run this from the command line. And as I'm making changes here, you'll see it's reflected in the command line that I would cut and paste. Normally, if you don't use branches, you would just say, give me every file that's been changed since a certain date time actually. But since Northwind does use branches, I'll just go ahead and say, give me all the scripts that were changed and checked into this branch. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the directory that the build's going to go into so you can see. I'll delete these, put this off to the side, and then I'll click build. And as you can see, it created two files. And it gives me a summary here. And I can open the file directly from here, or I can open it from here by just clicking this. I'm just going to go ahead and run that, so it's going to apply it to my database. And you see here's all the SQL that I had injected, and it gives me some valuable information. And then we have the part that's injected before each file. And we see that we have an error in this script. So we can quickly find the error by just scrolling down. And here we see one of the scripts had an error. And OneScript made it so that we know exactly which file caused the error. So we have the full file name, who checked it in last into source control, and the timestamp on that file, and the version that source control has. So now the developer would have to fix this script and then commit it again to source control, and only scripts that are coming directly from source control can be part of our release. So like I said before, we can also run this from the command. So I'm going to go ahead and open that, and I'll copy the longer one. Open a command prompt, paste that in. Again, you should see some files pop up over here. Yep. So this can be part of an automated process. Any system that runs command lines, such as Octopus Deploy or Jenkins, you could use the OneScript as that step that creates the SQL script for release. So the basic idea behind build commands, you set a filter for which files to include. But you can also override the default sort order or default filtering using OneScript release requests. And I'll just show you that real quickly. We're going to go ahead and create a new one, and you can make a request to exclude files. We have powerful filtering capabilities, so you're not looking at every single file in your source control when you go to select them on the next tab. And here we see the default sort orders given to our tables, and we could open up each individual file, or we can click this to open up all files. Now at this point, because of the filtering, we're looking at every single file that was changed since the branch was created, and we can go ahead and start excluding ones. Similar to that, you can make this a request to include specific files. So in the selecting part, I'm positively including files, or I can change the sort order of each of the files so that they fall in a different order. So now that would change how these files are going to be sorted. Normally they're sorted based on the folder sort order and then alphabetically. So release requests are not used that often, but when they are, they give you total control. So in this quick video, you have seen how OneScript can be used to automate the combining and the management of scripts that go into a release for a given sprint or release cycle.